Hey everybody, it's April 16th, 2025. I decided to hop on here and do another little video. It's kind of funny. I've been getting a lot of questions and stuff from a lot of different people, and I just thought now would be a good time as any, instead of just sitting here and sending replies back to everybody and stuff like that, which I have. I send a reply back to everybody personally, whoever messages me or texts me or anything like that. But some of these are like repeated questions I see over and over and over and over and over, and I just thought, hey, it might be a good idea to go ahead and try to answer some of these and just do a video, like a little vlog or a TikTok or something like that, something for my YouTube video. And just so, one, I don't have to repeat it and be like, just watch the video. And then two, also, so it has some content and it connects me a little bit more to y'all. So anyway, one of the questions I got, let's see. How do you handle creative blocks or burnout? That's too good of a question for me to really respond to. Creative blocks and burnouts. Happens kind of a lot. Man, that's a good question. What do I do when I have creative blocks? Well, all right, like let's say I'm writing something for an example. I'm writing a script, and all of a sudden I just find myself just stuck in this, like, I don't know how to I don't know where to go with the script. And so what I'll usually do is step away from the project for a minute. Like, I'll sit there and stare at the keyboard, which, I use a computer nowadays instead of a typewriter. But I'll just sit there and stare at the keyboard or stare at the blank screen. And when something, like, I can just tell it's not going to happen right away, I just have to take a break. I take a breather, give me something to drink, something to relax. And then I usually watch something like, let's say I'm working on this Western. And in fact, a little update on what's going on is I'm having trouble getting in touch with all of my actors and stuff like that. Like, we're down to the wire. Production begins in less than 2 weeks. So yeah, I'm actually pretty excited. We were supposed to start shooting this weekend, but it's Easter weekend. A lot of people had stuff to do with their families, and me too. We're going to actually do a big grill and cookout. Going to have burgers and hot dogs and have the kids over, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. Going to have the kids, going to have their girlfriends, going to have hopefully my mom and dad, my brother, and whoever else can come. We're going to have burgers and hot dogs and grill out and just have a good old time. But also, it's to get everybody a little bit more time so we can get ready to start jumping into production. Because, January 20, or I mean, not January, but on the 26th, I have a DJ gig, and then another little film project. And then on the 27th, we begin production for Battle of Copper Canyon. And we're actually going to be shooting up at Copper Canyon Ranch in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. And then the following weekend, I'm actually supposed to be going to Louisiana, to Colfax, Louisiana, for the next scene. So a lot's going on, a lot of exciting stuff. So, but the problem is I'm having some difficulty with two of the main actors, just trying to lock down their schedule, make sure they have costumes, make sure that I have costumes, and make sure we got everything, like all of our ducks in a row and stuff like that. So what it looks like, I may have to change their scenes because they might not be available. And I can't just hire somebody else to come in and do it as a quick replacement. So just like in the movie Jaws, sometimes, your shark doesn't work. Sometimes the machine just doesn't work, and you just got to come up with what you can do with what you have. So we're going through a kind of a complete rewrite. Now, with that being said, sit down and you just stare at the blank page and you can't come up with something. What I'll do is watch things that will inspire me. Like, for example, if I'm working on the Western or the Western script, I might sit down, I'll watch a couple Western movies. Some people create like a vision board or a mood board. And so what they'll do is they'll have like either movie posters or they'll have screenshots or something like that that's set up to kind of remind them the mood and the style and the feeling that they're going for the movie. What I'll sometimes do, though, is I'll watch a couple movies that are supposed to be in the same genre / same feel. So, of course, you have 1,000 different kinds of Westerns. But, mine is a very specific type. And so I might find other movies just like that, and I'll watch them, kind of get some ideas, because that'll really get the ball rolling and stuff like that. And, a lot of coffee, some energy drinks and stuff like that. And then once I'm wired, so to speak, and my mind starts running real fast, I have to start jotting it down as fast as I can. So once I get inspired and then kind of get motivated, like I said, I have to take a break, take a walk, take a breather, do something. But once I get that blood flowing, once I get that energy flowing, then it's time to hit the books again. It's time to hit the start typing away. And so that's probably my best advice to help get over writer's block or any kind of creative mojo issues that you might be having. You got to get your mojo back. What made me want to be a filmmaker in the first place? Well, some of it was self-preservation. I've always wanted to make movies for as far back as I remember. When I was 7 years old, I knew I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be an actor and I wanted to be a filmmaker. And I really wanted to pursue the acting side. And it wasn't until I was in I was all around the same time. I wrote a letter to George Lucas at the George Lucas Ranch, and I actually got a letter back, and I kept it in a frame for years, and then eventually the frame broke, and then I had opened and closed it so many times in my youth that it finally just fell apart, and then I didn't take care of it, and I think it ended up in storage, and golly knows whatever happened to it now, which sucks because, it was a very inspiring piece for me to have for years. But anyway, I'd come up with this idea. It was pretty much a ripoff of the Muppet movie where the Muppets get together and go to Hollywood to make a movie. Well, I'd come up with an idea called Fuzzies, which was my stuffed animals. We called them Fuzzies. I was like, Fuzzies go to Hollywood. And I asked George Lucas if he would produce it. And of course, absolutely not, But the letter said that, he told himself years ago he'd only work on his own content. He'd only create his own things. And that pretty much I would never have to, listen to anybody else tell me no about making a movie again if I made it myself. So we fast forward just a little bit, and I'm still on the acting side. The 7th and 8th grade school play happened. Now, at this point, I'm like in 5th grade. And it's a 7th and 8th grade school drama. It was The Little Mermaid. And I was a better part for one of the characters, but I didn't get it because the teacher's son got it, which makes sense, of course, it's the director's son, yada, yada, yada. And I was also younger, yada, yada. But it dawned on me, even back then, it's like, man, if this was my play, I could have picked whoever I wanted to play. And then I started recognizing, especially by the time I got to high school, that a lot of the big wig actors that I really loved and admired, they are their own executive producers. They are creating their own content. They're making their own films and stuff like that. In fact, I heard an interview one time with a producer. They said, why did you get into producing? He says, because I wanted to act, duh. Even though he was just a producer and director, and that's just how he got involved. That's a very common thing that happens as you transition from one to the other. And so some of it was self-preservation. It's like, I want to act in this type of movie, or I want to be in this kind of movie, or I want to see myself in this kind of role. And then it took on a whole new meaning when I started creating my own content and started doing my own production and stuff like that. What's the day? Yeah, pretty much what's it like as a filmmaker and a dad? Filmmaker and a dad. I'm a full-time filmmaker now, and so I do get questioned a lot, what's that like, / how did I get there? And there's actually a meme that shows, it's kind of like the evolution of a filmmaker. And one of them, you start out I want to be a filmmaker. And then the other one shows him, he looks exhausted, he's definitely blue-collar, and it's like, I just spent a lot of money trying to be a filmmaker. And then another one looks like he's, super poor, but he's, moving up the ladder in the evolutionary chain of filmmaking. It's like, I'm going to go to film school. And then another, he has his gear, but he's wore out, and it's like, I'm going to do as many gigs as I possibly can for free. And then finally, he's in a business suit, walking around real nice in the evolutionary mode. And it's like when you finally learn how to get clients. And that's kind of that's exactly right. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I'm a digital cinematographer. I'm an editor. I'm a writer. I'm an actor, a producer, a director. I do a little bit of everything. And I had to give up a lot. I had to sacrifice a lot. I had to decide for myself what was more important. And so I didn't always waste a lot of time and money and energy on what normal people would consider even necessities. For example, I had a pair of boots when I was working at the sawmill, and they were old and they were tore up, and the sole came off. And obviously super glue and hot glue wasn't keeping it together, so duct tape. duct tape worked. I just strapped the sole back onto the shoe and just wore that for like literally another year. And anytime the duct tape would wear off and it would rip off, I just duct tape it back up. That's the magic of duct tape. That's what's awesome. For example, I had fender that came off a car. And it's just almost like plastic, and it had ripped off where it's supposed to snap on. So we just duct tape car. I drove my duct tape car for about 5 years. I wore those duct tape boots for like a year. I had a phone that was like busted and cracked and smashed, and it was old, but I refused to go out and get a new one because I knew that my long-term goal was for the expensive gear. It was for creating the content and producing shorts and producing films and music videos. And so I had a very specific goal in mind, that I was being very frugal with anything. I'm used to being poor. I lived like I was poor. And so, by golly, in order to get money, even when I had money, I treated it as if I had absolutely no money. And so it was a minimalist all the way. And I drive some people crazy because they don't understand that, or they've lived a white collar life their entire life, so they don't understand what it's like to be hardcore blue collar where you have to live off of ramen noodles or something. They don't understand that. They haven't been there. They haven't walked in your shoes. So no matter what they say, they can't really judge you because they've never been there. So for me, it was just making sacrifices and making choices. I decided to go back to school. I went to Full Sail University. Again, got my degree in digital cinematography, but then I also went through LinkedIn Learning and did a lot of their learning courses. And whether it was drone operation or just editing with Adobe Premiere or whatever, I got certificates in each one of those and started taking online courses and classes. And in order to do all those, I had to sacrifice going to a movie or hanging out with friends. Or, I had no social life, absolutely no dating life, mostly because it just doesn't interest me. But also because I knew that my choice, like I could either go out or I could stay in and learn something new, add something to my arsenal of information that I could pull out, at any time. So I have well over 50 certificates and different degrees and different diplomas and stuff like that. So, and the numbers keep growing. And in fact, it's just ridiculous amount of the certificates and classes and courses that I've taken and stuff like that. But also, there's also kind of like a meme out there that talks about like, it shows what equals to no pay. So if you work for exposure, it means no pay. If you work for a passion project, it means no pay. And it's just a list of these things. Like if you pick a student film, it means no pay. And it's really kind of a slam against doing any of these other work because you're supposed to be a paid performer. But there's truth in a starving artist. And so when you're starting out, sometimes you have to pay to play. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay money in order to be a part of it, but anything, like you can't walk into a hospital and say, you know what, I want to be a surgeon. I want to be a brain surgeon, and I think I should get to perform surgery today. That's what I want. I think y'all should pay me surgical pay. Well, that's not going to happen. You're going to have to go to school. You're going to have to commit time. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're also it's going to spend money. You're going to go into debt because you're working on your craft. You're investing for your future. Well, the same thing goes for almost anything, but specifically filmmaking, because filmmaking is one of the most expensive art forms and hobbies out there. So you're going to have to invest in yourself. You're going to have to invest in your time. Let's say you just want to be the actor. You just want to be an actor and you don't want to have anything to do with the other side of the camera. Well, you're going to have to invest in headshots. You're going to have to invest in acting classes. You're going to have to invest your time. You're going to have to invest going to auditions. You're going to have to take on roles, whether it's student films, being an extra. You're going to have to start somewhere. You're going to have to start with your local theater. You're going to have to start with your local community. You're going to have to go to networking events. You got to get your name out there because you are the business. You're marketing yourself. And so the same thing when it goes onto the other side of the camera as well is not only do you have to take the acting classes, but you have to know what composition is. You have to understand what framing is. You have to understand how to direct a scene. You have to understand even the basics of editing and stuff like that. And so it's important to invest in yourself and invest in your future. Now, with that being said, like I used to do a lot of running, a lot of exercises, and I was in pretty good shape. And I did a little bit of online work and stuff like that, where I showed off my body. Like I felt like I looked pretty good. And then when I joined law enforcement for a little while, they were having me run, getting ready to go to the police academy. So I'd run several miles every single day. But it was funny because the moment I left that and started really pursuing the educational side of the filmmaking world, I gained like 89 pounds in 1 year, which is super unhealthy for you. And I'm not telling anybody else they should do that. But I sacrificed going to the gym. I sacrificed going for my runs. I sacrificed those times because I knew it was short term. I was like, there's an old saying I've been saying since at least 2016, 2017, never trade long-term success for short-term happiness. That goes for relationships. That goes for finances. That goes for, especially in your career. To me, that goes for everything. So putting on a little bit of weight and sacrificing that time at the gym, the only thing you can ever get back is time. And I don't regret that decision. Now, the thing is, I am over 40 and my metabolism isn't the same. So losing that weight is definitely a lot harder than what I thought it would be like. But, I'm not so unhealthy that I'm going to fall over from a heart attack or nothing like that. I don't have blood pressure issues. I'm not diabetic. I'm nothing like that. Like, I'm still within a healthy range. I'm just a hefty healthy. And so, which I need to get back into, a lot thinner, healthier, if you know what I mean. But with that being said, definitely my modeling days are over. But was never like a model. But it's a whole different story right there. But I just sacrificed those kinds of things. I sacrificed going out to dinner. I sacrificed, like I said, going to movies or going on dates. And I just lived very frugal and just really focused on developing my career and did a lot of free gigs. A lot of free gigs. In fact, I drove 6 hours one way to be an unpaid extra with no lines once. And I know that sounds crazy, but it was because I wanted to meet the filmmakers, and it worked out that I did, because I drove like 6 hours one way for this non-speaking, non-paying role, but I was the very first one there. I helped, and it was a independent film company. It was an independent project. I helped move their cameras. I helped move their lights. I was the first one there and the last one to leave. I helped clean up. I helped them set up. I did everything I possibly could, and I asked questions. The crew was very good with me and stuff like that, and I impressed the director enough that he was like, well, because he found out how far I drove and stuff like that, he's like, I'll make sure you get at least a line. I'll make sure you get some screen time since you drove all this way and you're not getting paid. So he gave me screen time and gave me some lines, which helped me build my reel. But right at the end of the day, he's like, if you're going to be here tomorrow, we actually are shooting another scene. I'll guarantee you some more screen time. And so, like a total of everything, it was only about 15, 20 seconds worth of screen time, but it was enough to start my reel. And it was all because I volunteered, and all because I put in that effort and stuff like that, and impressed the director, and the producer started using me for every single thing that they ever made after that. Like, after that, they had something, they'd call me. Some of my best friends, Joey and David, Joseph Drake and David Baker from White Door Productions, same thing. I volunteered, did some work with them, and they loved me so much that they used me for every single project that they could. Up to date, I think I've done like 4 or 5 features with them, and most of their short films and one of their music videos. I'm not sure what else, but like, that's the point, is like, you get used, you get to grow and stuff like that. And several different people that I've worked with before that led to other jobs and other gigs and other stuff like that. It cost me money to dress up nice and to go to a red carpet premiere. I paid my own money out of pocket one time to get a limo to go to a red carpet event. But the payoff, because the publicity and showing up in the limo and literally being Hollywood, like, that cost me money. That was my time and my investment. But the outcome from that was worth it. It was like it was the presentation of it, because that's what's also important, is presentation. And so showing up with a suit and tie, with 2 girls hanging on my arm, stepping out of a limo onto the red carpet, like, that that literally turned some heads. That got a bunch of people's attention. Everybody who had a camera took a picture. Everybody who had a cell phone took a picture, and it blew up all over Facebook. It blew up all over Instagram and all those stuff, and that led to other gigs because that let other people know that I was serious. But it also let them see me because the algorithm started selecting some of my stuff that pushed the content, and all of a sudden they went, from seeing a post here or there, they see me in everything. It's like, oh, well, he's at this premiere. Oh, he's at that premiere. And so I started going to red carpet events. I started going to every networking events, little parties, dinner with dreamers, creative events, and then just introduced myself and passed out business cards, and that's really how I got started. And so once I graduated from Full Sail, that stepped me up to the next level, and then I started doing gig work, which I've been doing freelance gig work this entire time for over 10 years. But I finally landed kind of like a contract, like a retainer with a company that sells houses. They're not even filmmakers, but because they're not filmmakers, they have nothing to do with filmmaking. They made a TikTok, they made a walkthrough video, and all of a sudden they just started seeing so many people like from out of town, like calling them like, hey, I want to buy a house. I want you to build me a house. I want one just like that in the video. That they realized that they had a marketing need. They had a need for both marketing and for commercials and for TikToks and YouTube videos. So they hired out a media specialist. And that's how I got involved. Is I am a full-time filmmaker who, I'm working as a videographer, but I'm also using my talents as an editor, and they give me an extremely, extremely discounted rate, but I'm guaranteed for all their work. So, it's like a full-time job. I get up. I usually get up around 5:30. I'll get up and take a shower because my dogs like to lay on top of me and waller all over me and stuff like that. So I get up, I take a shower, I brush my teeth, I put on, some nice pair of clothes. I'll throw on some cologne, and then I'll head to, an office, and then they have, an assignment for me to do. We may have to go out to Lyles, Tennessee, or may have to go to Erin, Tennessee, or may have to go to Hohenwald, which is Lewis County, and different locations and stuff like that. And then I'm paid to help cut these videos, make these videos, make like I said, make YouTube, make commercials out of them and stuff like that. And then I capture that footage. I either go home or go to an office and then edit. And then I just do that. And then on the side, because I'm not just locked into them only, I get to still take other freelance gigs and stuff like that. Like this last Friday, I filmed a wedding up in Nashville. Now, typically, and I probably should say this, I don't like filming weddings. I don't usually do weddings. I'm probably not going to film your wedding if you want me to, because I've had a problem with a lot of bridezillas in the past. And I don't know. It's just draining to me. It's not fun. I could probably make a lot more money financially. And I made bank off this. I made bank off this wedding. But it wasn't like a regular traditional wedding. It was an Afghanistan wedding. It was so different. It was culturally crazy. They had this wall that separated the men and the women. So the men was on one side of the room and the women was on the other side of the room. They weren't allowed to mingle. There was a lot of music and a lot of dancing. There was a lot of just showmanship and stuff like that. They'd take breaks and go change clothes and come back. The bride and groom came out at least 3 or 4 different times in different outfits each time. Yeah, it was amazing. They did almost like the Mamushka from the Addams Family with his knife dance. It was awesome. It was a lot of cool things. It got a little wild towards the end, because towards the end after we left, there was like fireworks and I guess you call them smoke bombs, but they were waving different colored smoke and stuff like that in the air. A lot of noise. It sounded like machine guns going off. It was kind of crazy. I'm pretty sure the law probably was called. That was but it was a beautiful ceremony. It was wonderful. I wish I could show you some clips. I wish I can show you some video of it, but I'm probably not at liberty to show those kind of things. That's up to them. They paid me to come in and stuff like that. But I got to work with a friend of mine. He's really good. He's, doing the editing, and he was the still photographer and I was the videographer. And it was just a beautiful wedding. We had a great time, and then turned around on Saturday and I did a DJ gig where I worked for the 7th and 8th grade junior prom for Loboville. And tell you what, man, that rocked the house down. I'll show you a clip of that. Well, see, it showed a lot of the kids' faces, so maybe I shouldn't incorporate that clip, because I did go ahead and pick up my phone and just start recording a couple of clips, because man, it was like a nightclub in there, because they had the strobe lights and they had the disco lights, and all the regular lights were off and stuff like that. And we had these lights that go with the music that's streaming. And so by the time we got to like Katy Perry or, Call Me Maybe, like people were jumping and screaming and singing to the words and stuff like that. They had an awesome time. Mostly played songs from the 80s, 90s, and club music from the early 2000s. And I did not think I was going to relate to these kids at all with the music, but apparently the choices that I picked was nailed it, because all the like half the students and teachers and everybody else afterwards like, man, I didn't know you did that, and you did an awesome job. And that caused me to be booked into another one. I'm already booked for a couple more DJ gigs and stuff like that, and I'm also booked 3 more weddings because that one wedding. And so that's it's word by mouth. And then I know for a fact that like the housing company and stuff like that builds these houses and stuff, they said they have over 100 houses that they've already built that need videos, need pictures, and need stuff for the website, need stuff to be promoted. And they're not going to stop. They're an ongoing company. It's going to be around for the next 25, 30 years. And so they're always going to be cranking out new houses and new homes and new plans. And as trends change, their showrooms will change, their styles will change, and so I will be like forever with working, long as I keep that open relationship with them and continue to meet my clients' needs and make them happy. I've got a steady paycheck. I'm getting a salary to create this content for them, and so that's awesome, because I landed a retainer. I landed the contract, and it's it's a good deal. It's a good deal. I don't want to say who it's for. I don't really want to say who it's for right now. No particular reason. I just want to make sure that our branding is like, they love it, I love them. We seem very, very compatible and stuff like that. But I also do horror movies and some other things like that, and I would never want to do anything that would make my clients I wouldn't want to do anything that would compromise the relationship that I'm building with my client, if that makes sense. So, I just want to keep it short, sweet, to the point, and help them. They help me, and we have a great working relationship. And so now, like that opens up new doors, not only for more commercial work and more YouTube work and more videos and stuff like that, but it also, it gets me, it puts food on the table and it pays the bills. So now I'm doing very well. I'm doing very, very, very well. Not like rich. I should probably correct that. I mean, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And I'm just doing, like I said, doing it as full time. So going from somebody who worked at a sawmill for 15 years or working on a factory, doing what I love, having that freedom, having the ability to kind of come and go as I please, being my own boss, it's different, and I have had some struggles because it's white collar world, and when you take a blue collar person into a white collar world, or vice versa, sometimes they can't mix or their brains don't mesh. And so it is interesting, like to go from being a laborer to now I have complete creative freedom. It's amazing. It's a great feeling. It's wonderful. It's something I have struggled for years to get here, and God bless, I am finally there. I made it to the mountaintop, and it is as beautiful as I ever thought it'd be. It's wonderful. All the sacrifices was worth it. It was great. I love it. And I'm going to keep going with it, and we'll just see what happens. Also, we're beginning production, like I said, on the Western, the weekend of the 26th and 27th. The 27th is when it gets real, and so when the rubber meets the road. And then we're also working on another scene for the Naughty List with October Studios that I'll be doing up in Kentucky, and I'm actually going to be in front of the camera, and I'll be behind the camera too, but you're going to get to see this pretty face some more, and it's pretty awesome. And that question is what's it like to be a full-time filmmaker and a dad? I love being a dad. I don't know. I guess because I had a very interesting childhood. My dad was a gunny sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. We were raised very particular, like hardcore. This is the way things have to be done. And my mom was like a flower power hippie chick. So you can do a little bit of whatever you want. And then my dad was like, "This is how things are done." My mom's no. And so it was a very interesting time. I can tell you some stories, horror stories too. But what was it? Wow, see, my ADHD kicked in. I have no idea why I even brought that up. But yeah, what were we talking? Oh, being a dad. Yeah, so like my dad wasn't always there, available emotionally or mentally when it came to that kind of stuff. And when he got out of the military, he had to have his knees replaced and stuff like that. So he had like a medical discharge, and after his knee replacements and stuff like that, he had a hard time adjusting to civilian life. He had PTSD, and so he ended up becoming a truck driver. And then, that's important, make money, and like my parents made a lot of sacrifices for us, but we were poor and we didn't always see my dad a lot. And so I made the decision that I'd be home every single day, no matter what that meant. And I just love being a dad. I love seeing my kids. I love seeing the artwork. I love playing video games with them. Except that's funny, I hate video games, and that's a whole different story, because they've been telling me for a while I need to start making some like Twitch videos and playing video games. Except I don't think anybody's gonna watch Oregon Trail on Twitch. If y'all want to watch, if you want to watch me play Oregon Trail, or if you want to watch me play Where in the World's Carmen Sandiego, or original Mario Brothers, or Contra, because I am good at that game. Like, I'm good at old school Nintendo games, mostly because, it's all we had back then. I never really played anything. Never had a Sega, never had a Super Nintendo, I never had a Game Boy or anything like that. My younger brother did get a PlayStation 1, and I did really get into like WWF, added like SmackDown and Attitude, and then we had Metal Gear Solid. The one is what we call it, but technically that was an old Nintendo game, except I didn't know that. We were poor, we didn't get that. Yeah, man, did love that. But long story short, I love doing those kind of things. I love playing board games like a kid. It makes me feel like a kid. So anytime somebody asked me, like, what you doing? I was like, I'm just running around working and chasing kids. That's really all I have time for now. Aiden is 20 now, so he's living out on his own. Brady is 17. He's going to be out of school and out of the home soon, so that is a little bit of an empty nest kind of situation kind of going on. I do miss seeing them. I do miss them when they were little, but man, I tell you what, I love hanging out with them. I love they've turned into great young men. And so I just posted some pictures on Facebook. It was funny, Sunday night I went with Brady and Carter and Brady's girlfriend, and we went and watched the Minecraft movie, and then turned around Monday and went with Aiden and his girlfriend to watch King of Kings, which is the animated feature film telling the story of Jesus told through the eyes and lens of Charles Dickens. So man, it was an awesome movie. I definitely recommend it. Go get tickets, man. Definitely watch it. But anyway, so balancing those two has always been fun, but I've always, put them first as a priority, and then films was second, bar none. So there was no, like I said, I didn't have time for anything else. And I think it's because my ADHD brain definitely get tunnel vision, and that becomes all I think about, all I focus about, all I dream about. And I tell you what, it's sweet. It's beautiful. I love it. Anyway, there's about 20 other questions, and I'd make this video like 10 hours long if I answered them all. So I'm just going to cut it like this. So I will probably answer some more of these questions. And if you have any questions, definitely add them. I'll get to them. I'll answer them on here eventually. But man, I tell you what, I love you all. God bless you, man. Live with passion. Don't give up on your dreams. Listen, I am a barefoot nobody kid from nowhere, Tennessee. And I not only made my dreams come true, but I'm living, you consider it your best life. I am doing everything that I ever thought I could or want to. Now, making it looks like a lot of hard work, because, I got to get up. I got to do, if I don't make my clients happy, if I don't meet a deadline, then I don't get paid. But it's definitely, it's a whole new world. It's sky's the limit. And so, I'm hoping that means I'm going to be even bigger clients and bigger future and bigger movies and bigger projects. So far, I really make my meat and potatoes, and it pays for all my bills and stuff. I really find most of my meals and my bills through independent, low micro budget films. But I'm hoping that we're about to hit that next level. So, and even if I don't, it's okay. I'm very, very, very happy with where I'm at. So anyway, stay tuned. Like I said, we're working on a Western, we're working on a horror film. I have a music video and like 3 commercials coming. It's a lot, but it's awesome. Anyway, guys, I love you so much. God bless.